That's right, I'm the black sheep, the real black sheep. I'm the black sheep, the real black sheep.
I recently came across a video posted by a YouTube channel called African Diaspora News. It's hosted by Mr. Phil Scott, and it's exactly what it sounds like, y'all. It's a pro-black channel that focuses primarily on the black agenda and the happenings as it pertains to black people throughout the diaspora. Now, I do need to warn that he has some strong views, and I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff. But with that being said, if you are interested in what's going on in the black community, you should check him out, man. He does a really good job presenting the news and brings a unique perspective that's definitely valuable, in my opinion. So support black businesses, y'all feel me? With that being said, man, let's roll the clip.
You had this story out of Wantagh, New York. Now, you had this particular white supremacist decide to attack a 62-year-old woman and her 17-year-old grandson. They're both black. But I want you to hear what happened in this story.
I heard a large crash, like glass breaking.
The sound of shattering glass startled neighbors on Bayview Avenue in Wantagh yesterday afternoon. Cops say Joseph Magistro threw barbells into the windows of his neighbor's house and threatened them with a shotgun during a heated confrontation.
We saw, one neighbor arguing with another, screaming at him.
Debbie Loffman lives across the street and heard the commotion.
It makes us all worry about the safety of our family and our children.
Prosecutors say Magistro didn't only throw objects at the house. They say he also threatened the two residents who live in the home, who are both African American, by shouting words of hate at them.
According to court documents, prosecutors say Magistro called his neighbors the N-word, told them they don't belong in a white neighborhood, and threatened to shoot them. Police say the victims, a 62-year-old woman and a 17-year-old boy, ran back into their house and called 911. Loffman says the boy posted about the incident on social media.
The 17-year-old boy had posted on Facebook that he was, being, I guess they just moved in here a couple weeks ago, he said, and already was fighting with the neighbor.
Cops arrested Magistro at his house. He's charged with hate crimes as well as menacing, aggravated harassment, trespassing, weapons possession, and criminal mischief.
Now, this is a crazy story of racism. What's new, right? I want to take the camera off our main characters for a second and take a closer look at one of our supporting roles. Some might say neutral party, even an ally. That is the unassuming neighbor. She seems harmless enough, but I will argue that she, and this entire news segment, I might add, represents a much bigger problem in society that is rarely addressed, and that is Joseph Magistro is right. They don't want them in the neighborhood. Let's go back and watch what she says again.
We saw, one neighbor arguing with another, screaming at him.
She could be talking about Joseph Magistro, screaming at the young 17-year-old boy. It seems to me, though, that she's referring to the black family, simply because of her body language, the demeanor, just all around her fuck shit, right? Let's continue. Let's see what else she has to say.
It makes us all worry about the safety of our family and our children.
Again, she could be speaking in solidarity with the black family, but then I would posit, if this is racially motivated act, why is she worried about the safety of her family and her children? Wouldn't something more appropriate have said been, I'm worried about the safety of their children and their family? I hope that they feel welcome in this neighborhood. If that's too much to ask, then you can't be considered an ally. Now, this last part is the most telling. Before we move on to it, I'd like to make a note of a few admitted assumptions that I've made that are critical here. One, the woman seems like a smart and competent person who, on top of being a homeowner, probably been there for a while, likes her home and the neighborhood that she's located in, right? Two, as a smart and competent woman, she's being interviewed by a local TV station that her herself probably watched and will probably watch the clip that she's in when it airs, and will probably tell her friends and family in hopes of getting everybody to watch it with her. The last thing you want when you're on national television is to look stupid in front of everybody. So she's probably chosen her words very carefully in this interview, right? She's probably put thoughts into her responses and how they would be perceived by the broader community, right? Three, the woman had mentioned she's seen a post the young black man had posted on Facebook about the incident. I would bet my left nut that young man mentioned the fact that the attack was racially motivated in that post, meaning that she knew the details of the situation before this news interview. And last, four, this was not a live interview, meaning Channel 12 News interviewed her for, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes. They took whatever responses they felt were relevant to the story and spliced them together. So it's an open question of whether she is really being shown in context or not, right? Trying to be fair, whatever. Now, with that out the way, I want you all to watch and listen to what she says next very closely. Watch what she says and what she doesn't say.
The 17-year-old boy had posted on Facebook that he was, being, I guess they just moved in here a couple weeks ago, he said, and already was fighting with the neighbor.
Did you catch that? She started off her statement by explaining what the boy had put on Facebook.
That he was, being...
Being what? Being harassed, being attacked, being tickled? What was being done to him? No, she cuts off abruptly, and instead of finishing her thought, she decides to speak on the fact that this new black family just moved in a couple weeks ago and was already fighting with the neighbors. Already, right? The word already in this used in this context denotes that you had already had some expectations about the subject at hand. For an example, I took my 12-year-old brother on a roller coaster ride, and he was already crying before we got on. You see, I'm subtly saying that I expected him to cry when we got on the roller coaster, but not so soon. The unassuming neighbor is saying that she expected this black family to fight with the neighbors, but not so soon. Finally, let's address Channel 12 News and why y'all didn't ask the neighbor, or any neighbor for that matter, how they feel about the black family moving in the neighborhood. Think about it. This man attacked and threatened to kill a 62-year-old woman and her 17-year-old grandson, all because they moved into their neighborhood. Are we supposed to believe that he's an outlier? He's just the lone wolf? Why not ask people in the neighborhood if anybody else shares this belief to confirm that? This could have actually been a comforting moment for the black family. If the unassuming neighbor lady had said, we do not share his racist views, it would have reassured this family that they're welcome in the community, right? Now, on the flip side of that, if she had said, nah, I don't want none of them porch, it would have been valuable information to anyone, black people or otherwise, that were thinking about moving into this community and this area and the dangers it presents, right? Now, on top of all this shit, the icing on the cake, the same news station that just reported this racist attack, Channel 12 News, buried the lead online. In fact, there's no mentions of racism at all as it pertains to this story. They described the event as a bizarre incident. A bizarre incident. Now, if you think I'm making a mountain out of molehill, fine. Let's talk about another incident that just happened, right? The Amber Geiger trial. She murdered Botham Jean in his own home and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. In the state of Texas, you only have to serve 5 years if you have a 10-year sentence and you're able to come up on parole. It's a great injustice. I agree with that 100%. But again, let's take our lens off the main characters and put them back on the supporting characters in this story, right? Here we have Joshua Brown, the neighbor that lived directly across from the late Botham Jean, and he went up on the stand and testified to what he had witnessed the night of the incident. The actions of a good Samaritan, a positive member of society who we all should exalt. Would you not agree? Well, hell no, not all of us apparently, because he was found dead, murdered Friday night, shot in the chest and mouth. Now, if y'all want to chalk the Amber Geiger situation up as a lone wolf outlier in the broader context of America, fine. But are we gonna really call the murder of Joshua Brown as an outlier as well? Now, they still haven't found the killer, if I'm not mistaken at this point. So I'm obviously assuming that this guy is either white, a cop, or both. Probably both. But let's just say I have a hunch on that, right?
So we have an update to the murder of Joshua Brown. They said 2 people were arrested in connection with the death, and there's a third guy who's been identified. And I just want to get the story straight. So apparently, Joshua Brown was a big drug dealer, apparently, or something, and was murdered in a drug deal gone wrong. So this is apparently what I'm being told. Joshua Brown, who, if you look him up, he's an ex-athlete that owned a few Airbnbs that's how he made his money, you know what I mean? He owned some properties. This guy was actually a drug dealer who took the stand against the police. And right after taking the stand against the police, did a drug deal that went wrong. I don't buy it for a second, but whatever. I'm sure that's enough. It's enough for some people. Yeah.
Now, I feel like we're missing the forest for the trees here, bro. The black family from the first story isn't wanted in the neighborhood. These aren't just bad actors, man. It's much bigger than that, man. I'm sorry, this shit pisses me off, man. It's just crazy. This shit gets way deeper than that. These people don't want you in the neighborhood. Why are we still moving into their neighborhoods, man? They don't want us there, bro. They don't want us there. I mean, bro, this guy busted their windows with a shotgun, put a shotgun in a 62-year-old woman's face. And you know what? I'm going to make it deep for you real quick. I think if the grandma moved in by herself, they wouldn't have said nothing to her. You know what it was? It was that 16-year-old black kid. I'm sorry. You know how I know? Because I was once a 16-year-old black kid. They don't want you there, bro. That's what the problem is, man. If it was just that lady by herself, they probably wouldn't have said nothing. They seen that young black man and were like, not in my neighborhood, which is ridiculous, bro. I have real radical views about what to do about this. If you want to know what my idea to do about this, I think there's a few things we can do. I'm going to name a couple of them. One, do not move into these white people's neighborhood. Don't do it. Don't go out there. We need to fix up our own neighborhoods. They've gerrymandered our districts to the point where there's really no excuse for us not to be properly represented, at least in our districts, by our representatives, because they corral us all together. They may not have as many seats, so we may not get certain laws passed, but to the extent that we don't have representation is dumb. Like, look, if you had just everybody in your apartment complex go out and vote, you'd probably be able to make some real change, but it's neither here nor there. The next thing I think we could do, start our own party. The Democrats aren't your ally, bro. The Republicans aren't your ally, bro. None of them are. They don't want her in the neighborhood. They didn't want that little boy in the neighborhood. They don't want none of them in the neighborhood. The neighbors neither. Channel 12 buried the lead about racism. They're not addressing racism. It doesn't exist to these white people out here, bro. And if it does, and if you're one of the white people that feels differently, then say something. Say something. Because you're not my ally if you don't say nothing. For perfect example, if you're at a Thanksgiving dinner and your racist uncle starts spewing out some racist shit and you try and change the subject, you're not my ally. You know why? Because if that same situation happened, your uncle was spewing out some pedophile shit, you'd be like, whoa, no, what you mean? She was 12. Well, what you talking about? That's crazy. Would you not? You would address that shit immediately. But when he's talking about how these are horrible, you ain't saying nothing. You just want to change the subject. But you're not racist. I mean, when it comes to Nazi Germany, the Germans that didn't say nothing about the Jews being murdered, or what do we call them? They're just bystanders? What are they? Because inaction is still action. Doing nothing is still doing something. You're doing nothing. I don't know if y'all can tell, I'm hot, bro. This shit's crazy, man. Like, and it's just because what's crazy about this is we're all acting like this is, are we serious right now? Are we fucking serious in 2019? A whole community. Because unless you prove me otherwise, the whole neighborhood don't want them there. The entire neighborhood, because this type of acts don't happen in a vacuum. People who go up and shoot up a school, they post it on forums and shit. You got to get hyped up. Anybody who's done dirt, period. You know what I'm saying? Black, white, otherwise. I've done a lot of dirt. You got to get hyped up about that. You got to get hyped. You got to get yourself hyped up. It's hard to do that stuff by yourself. You got somebody that's in your corner like, yeah, no, screw them. Forget that. You got people at least thinking the same way as you. They don't have to say, do this. You should do this. And all they have to do is think the same way you do. You think you're going to be a martyr in some way because he knew he was going to jail. No question in my mind. Bruh knew he was going to jail. But he also knew he was going to be a martyr to all these other white people in the neighborhood. They're going to be like, yeah, I appreciate what you did. We don't need them in our neighborhood. Man. The reason why this hurts me so bad, like I said, I think the common denominator was the young black man as a young black man, and it was dealt with stuff like that, man. It's 2019, man. I'm losing all faith, bro. Situation with Joshua Brown, he looked thorough to me, man. He looked like a real dude, bro. Like an upstanding dude, man, for real. Dude lost his life. They shot him in the chest, in the mouth, bro, after he took the stand. I'm sorry, man. I just can't believe this shit, bro. This all happened this month. You know what? I'm done. I'm out. That's it. Done.
We're talking about a justice system that had 500 people whose cases were overturned by DNA evidence. How come they didn't found Big and Tupac's murder, but they arrest OJ the next day? Nicole Simpson can't rap? I want a justice